Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Tea Tactics and Tenacity. I am your host, Jenn HERMAN with Jenn's Trends, and in today's episode, we are talking about what to do with your content when you have mediocre content at best, and making that look better on Instagram. So I'm going to take a quick second and I'm just going to pop that up in here in a comment. I haven't been doing this lately and I need to be better about putting this as a title on here. So I'm going to pop this in while you all are joining live. We've got Kayla, we've got Marie, hello. We got Charlie, we've got Mike Alton, we've got Rita. Hello, all you beautiful people. It is so great to see you on this Sunday morning my time. I'm just going to say a quick title on here. Making mediocre content better for IG. Posting that. Let's pin that so everybody can see what we're talking about when they come on. Hey, Mike Alton, it is so good to see you. Sold by Lisa is here as well. Hello to everybody popping in live with me this Sunday morning. I've got my tea in my beautiful little mermaid cup today. We're talking tea tactics and tenacity. So we do one Instagram tactic in this episode. The question is always submitted by a viewer just like you. Every question we answer on tea tactics and tenacity came from a viewer. These are not things that I want to answer. These are things that you want answered. And then we'll talk tenacity. In tenacity, we break down one random thing in my mind as it relates to mom life, business life, life in general. You know, figuring things out as we go and sharing those with you in these brief little episodes that we do every Sunday whenever I get around to getting my tea ready, being ready to jump on camera with you. Kayla, thank you. Kayla loves the mug. I've had this one for a while. I don't usually use this one. It gets stuck in the back of the cabinet. This is one when Amanda Robinson, my bestie, comes to visit. This is one of her favorite coffee mugs, so she tends to use this one regularly. But thought I'd bust it out today. I'm doing the pink today. Lots of pink. All right, so the question was submitted by Mock1980. And the question was, what do you do when your content is mediocre at best? How do you put this content on Instagram when it's, Instagram's a visual platform and we don't have a lot of ability to get people's attention unless the visual captures their attention. So what do you do when your content is mediocre at best? Now, this is something that impacts a lot of people, right? If you are a small agency or any size agency, really, but if you're running social media for a client, you're relying on the visuals that client provides. This is a huge issue for those types of businesses if you're managing social for somebody else. Maybe you run the social media for your organization, but you're relying on the content submitted by your employees at various locations, or, maybe you don't have the budget for hiring a photographer or those sorts of things. And you're like, okay, well, we just have to take what we get kind of thing. So there's a lot of reasons why your content can be mediocre at best. And it could just be that, sometimes we have people who, for me, for example, I don't have a product, right? I'm not like, here, buy this. I'm like, come work with me. So what do I do? How do I sell my service? I don't have a product. I don't have anything to create content around that showcases that individual product. So how should I be creating content to sell those services if you don't have something to put in a photo or a video to be able to create that better quality content? So I want to run through a list of kind of different things that you can do, starting with just taking what you have and then moving into ways to actually get better content. So one of the first things you can do is edit. Do what you can with what you have, whether it's using Photoshop or Canva or something like that, and edit what you have. You do not need to use that entire photo. You can crop that down to the best part of the photo. You can go into a tool again like Canva or Photoshop and isolate a portion of that photo, just the product. Cut that out, remove the background, turn that into a graphic, or turn it into something where you use a stock image as a background. Maybe you kind of watermark it a little bit, or you put a gradient over it so it's a little bit, kind of faded out. And then you take that, cut out version of just your product or just that person, and you go ahead and overlay that on top with some text so that it's a visual, but it's not using the low quality photos or the very distracting photos that you may have gotten from your employees or your team. So find ways to edit with what you have. You have what you have. How can you make it better? Can you, again, throw it up you can even throw it up here in Instagram, and you can use the AI tool in Instagram, right? So you can go in and, like, this is super basic. There's other AI tools you can use. You can go in here, but you can isolate the object of focus on your Instagram stories, and then you can tell AI to do something else with it, right? So you can turn around and take your product and just isolate the product and then say, put this in a high-end luxury kitchen with white marble countertops. And it's going to go and place that image in that environment. And you can run it through a couple of times. So again, if you don't have access to AI tools, you can just do that here within your Instagram stories. There's lots of other AI tools that can do similar things where you can take the chance to use what you have, isolate the best part of it, and use AI to create the image that you want so that you can actually enhance. Now, again, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be everything that you want, but it's going to be better maybe than what you have. So edit with what you have. Kayla also mentioned shapes you can drop into images are good too. Yes, absolutely. So let's say you have a really busy image or you only want part of it. Take the image, but then use like an octagon or a circle or a square and lay those over and put words in those so that you kind of have some text and things, or do cutouts with shapes so you can only have like portion and part came out port. So you have part of the image in there, but then you've got cutouts removing the other parts of the image that you don't want so that you can put that in there and create better visuals based on what you have. For those of you who are popping in late, hello, it's great to see all of you as well. We got Peggy, we got the Global Travelers. So we're talking about how to take your mediocre content. If you have mediocre content at best, how do you take that and make it better for Instagram visuals? So we're just talking about editing, things you can do with what you have. So the other thing you can do is use carousels. So let's say you're kind of stuck with what you got, right? Like you've got that image. You got to work with it. You can't really edit it. This is what your client wants you to use. This is what your boss wants you to use. You got to use that image. But it's not good. So turn it into a carousel where you create a great cover image. Again, using tools like Canva or even PowerPoint or whatever you want to use. You can use Instagram stories too, whatever you want to do. But create a good branded cover image. So that's going to be the first slide in your carousel. So it's going to have the title, or it's going to have the, the call to action, something like, new products out now is the text that's on there. And then the second slide, second, third, whatever it is that photo. It's not great, but it's buried in a carousel, and you could find a way to incorporate it with other content so that you have better content supporting that not so great content. And again, I want to point out too, what we consider mediocre content may not be that mediocre, right? If it's relatable, if it connects with your audience, if this is something that when your customers see it, they're like, oh yeah, that works for me. I can see that. It's relatable. It's raw. It looks more like user-generated content. It's not DSLR perfectly edited photos, but it may not be that bad. So that if you're putting it in a carousel where you keep your branding, you keep your aesthetic, but then that photo is the one that people see and go, oh yeah, I can relate to that. Or, oh yeah, that totally works. I can see that working in my environment or whatever it is. It makes it not be so mediocre with the type of content when you're mixing it in with what you have for branding to make it stand out, make it look better overall in your feed. Hello to the others who are popping in. We got your realtor. We got Joe Space and Glycine. Hello, beautiful. It's so good to see you too. So the next things I kind of want to talk about is how to So that's what you do with the content you have. If you've got mediocre content, you got to work with it. Those are the things you can do to get there. So, but there's things we can do to level up the content. There's things we can do to get better content. And I've worked with a lot of clients on this in various capacities. There's various ways that we can challenge those around us to create better content. So I've worked with a brand, they were a retail brand, and they had like 7 stores. And they were like, we can't get them to submit any content. Like nothing is working. We just, they don't want to do it. And the content we get is just, it's not good. It doesn't represent the brand well. It's poorly lit and it's just not working. So how do we get all these 7 different locations to actually give us content we can use? And so my recommendation was to create a contest internally. And this works great if you have multiple locations. It works great if you only have 1 location, but you have multiple employees. This typically works better in a product-based environment, like a retail type thing where there's things to photograph, but it doesn't have to be exclusively for that. But in this case, I said, create a campaign. So send it out, communications internally with the company, and say that for the month of, we're in the month of April. For the month of April, we want all the employees to submit photos to be used across our online social media and website, stuff like that. The store or the employee who submits the best piece, like we'll, run a contest or we'll, determine with the executive team who the winning content is, will win a prize. You get $100 store credit to use. You get a pizza party. You get a bottle of champagne, whatever it is. You create an incentive around it, and it gets the employees to want to create content. Now, the first time you do this, probably not going to be a huge swing in behavior. They're going to be like, whatever. I don't care about the bottle of champagne. But then when they see their coworker win that bottle of champagne, they're going to be like, oh, well, maybe I'll do it next time. Like you're going to incentivize over time to the point where 6 months down the road, if you do this every month with some sort of small value prize, within 6 months, you're getting a flood of high quality content. Because once they start seeing what content is winning, they start upping their game. They start trying more. They start being like, okay, I'm going to make sure I have better lighting. I'm going to make sure that, I climb up that ladder and get a different angle than what everybody else has gotten. I'm going to make sure that I do this at a time of day when no one else is around and I can get the best, layout or whatever it is. And it's going to incentivize them to put in more effort. And as you do this, you can create better prizes or you can create more incentive or whatever works for you. But you get to a point where it becomes so commonplace that you no longer have to incentivize. You get to a point where people are just submitting it. They're submitting it outside of the contest. They're like, oh, hey, I grabbed this photo. I thought it would be great. And they just start submitting it to you where you now have this archive of high quality content coming in that you can use at any time. So it builds over time into an environment where you get higher quality content. So again, whether you're, working with a whole bunch of employees, different locations, any sorts of things like that, challenge the employees to be participatory in this, but also give them examples. Whether you're doing an incentivized version like this, or if you're just, you're the social media agency and you're working with your client and they're giving you crappy content, give people examples of what you want. Go grab screenshots of other brands or of other, photos or videos of what you want. And be like, here, we really want an example where the person is in the center of the photo, where they are, where there's this product over here. Or we would really love it where we have something where, the person is off to the side so we can put text over here. Give them instructions. Most people, believe it or not, most people don't think in visuals like we do as marketers. Most of us as marketers have a concept in our mind of what we want to do with that image. We know when we get that photo, we're like, oh, really wish that had been landscape. I can't use it. It's vertical. Oh, I wish it was landscape. We know that. They don't know that. Half the time we take the photos ourselves and after the fact go, oh, I wish I had done that in landscape. Darn it. But the person that we are talking to, our clients, don't typically know what we want for the visuals. So make sure that you are educating them along the way and saying, here's examples of what we would really like. And not just tell them, but like send them photos so they can be like, oh, I understand. And again, the next few probably still going to suck, probably still not going to be high quality content. But every time they send it, be like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. Thank you. This is great. Hey, if you do it next time, can you do the same thing, but can you put the camera higher? Can you try going from can you step on a chair or a bench so you get a bit of a higher angle so we can see more of the view or more of the store, or get down really low. We would love to see this from a lower angle. Give them instructions, knowing that you're not going to immediately get high quality content. You're not going to take somebody who doesn't know how to take a photo all of a sudden being a master photographer. It's going to take some time, but the more you coach them through this and the more they work on it, the more quality content you're going to get over time. And it's going to allow you to build your archives of content and then still use those within the other things we just talked about, whether it's using AI or editing tools or turning them into graphics or in carousels as you move towards that higher quality content for that branding. So, consider that in terms of ways to kind of empower your team to get better at creating better content for you. For those of you who are tuning in a little bit late, hello, welcome to Tea Tactics and Tenacity. Today we're talking about how to make mediocre content better for Instagram. So we've been talking about all the different ways we can do that. The last and final thing I kind of want to talk about is the next step. So this isn't probably going to happen right now. I mentioned it at the top of the show. You don't have a budget for a photographer. You don't have a photographer on staff. You don't have anybody on site. Maybe as a social media agency, you live in one city and your clients are all in all these different states. You can't just show up and take a bunch of photos for them. So again, over time, you are going to build this up, right? You're going to work towards getting more quality content. And along that path, you are going to work towards having the ability to hire a photographer, to getting someone who can do the videography. Look for ways that you can coordinate with your client. And it could be things like, hey, can you go ahead and reach out to the local colleges or the high schools? See if they have a photography class. If they have a photography class, they have students learning photography who probably need credit. Sorry, my kid just walked down here to make a whole bunch of noise. Bye. Thank you. Bye. Live video. But you can have those students who probably need credit. They need visuals for their portfolio. They can come and do photography for you. Again, it's not going to be what you would get if you hired some super high-end photographer, but it's going to be a professional photographer or who's working towards that stage. And you can give them the instructions and say, hey, I really want visuals like this, just like we went through. Here's the examples of what you want. Tell them that. They work towards it. Again, it's a way to win-win, to support the community, get these students opportunity to learn and do better photography while getting your client better quality visuals within the constraints of what you are asking for with your content, for your clients, for your brand, any of those sorts of things. So those are the tips to take your mediocre content and make it better for the world of Instagram. These are the types of things that we talk about regularly in my membership program, Profit Your Profile. We've actually hired photographers to come in to Profit Your Profile. We've had a couple different photographers come in that actually teach tactics on how to take better selfies, better photos of people, better photos of products. We've gone through all of these things in Profit Your Profile because this is so important. Whether it's videography or photography, it is really important that we do have these good visuals. And yes, we want to get to the stage where we are working with professionals, hopefully at some stage, to take those photos and videos for your brand so that you can turn that into your high quality content, getting away from that, kind of mediocre, the more amateur, the more smartphone snapshot type things. So if this are the types of things that you want to learn more about, how to elevate your visual content and how to actually do better photography for yourself, whether it's on a smartphone or a high quality, but not hiring a photographer just yet, We've got all of this training in Profit Your Profile, which is my membership community dedicated to teaching Instagram marketing. But we cover all sorts of marketing. This month, for the month of April, we had Kate Payne come in with an amazing session on personal branding and PR. So she walked through like why a personal brand is important, how that is created, what that means, how that helps you in the long run. Even if you, like I am my personal brand, clearly. But if you work for an organization, you're obviously not the face of the brand, but you still need your own personal brand and why that's important. And then she shared some amazing tips on PR and how to get your brand in front of media, whether that's podcasts, TV, radio, magazines, all these different things, how to create a pitch. You went through like the exact things to do to create the right pitch to get in front of these media companies to get your brand that recognition. Now, again, this wasn't Instagram specific because in Profit Your Profile, we're not dedicated just to Instagram. The focus is Instagram, but we understand that Instagram doesn't work in silo. It's all part of your Instagram or your entire marketing strategy. So this is something that is worth looking into if you want to improve your overall marketing strategy, but especially your Instagram strategy. By all means, please check out profityourprofile.com. Marie was at our training and she said, amazing is right. Gonna watch Kate's session again. She was there for us live when we did the training this past week. It was such a great session. And I had so many of the members reach out and be like, oh my gosh, that was so helpful. So if that's something you want to learn more about, just go to profityourprofile.com. All right, so for today's tenacity topic, I want to kind of go along what we're talking about with the photography, which is that for the most part, we hate our own photos, right? This is one of those things where like, we don't like photos of ourselves. We don't like taking photos of ourselves. We don't like having our photos taken. We don't want our photos all over social media. It's hard to look at ourselves in photos. It is really hard. And if it is your personal brand, it is going to be a lot of you. If you're the CEO of the company, it's going to be a lot of you. If you're the face of the brand, it's going to be a lot of you. And most people, if you're not used to it, do not like looking at ourselves that much. We're overly analytical. We're hypercritical. And we do not want the photos out there. We're going to hypercriticize everything that we see. And that is normal. But I want to remind you that what you see is not what everybody else sees. And it doesn't matter if you're 10 pounds heavier than you want to be. It doesn't matter if you have more gray hairs than you want to have. It doesn't matter if you didn't like that outfit. People are not, yes, there are trolls out there. Yes, there are, somebody who's going to look at it and be like, oh, blah, 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 and say negative things about you. That is going to happen no matter what. You put something on the internet, it's going to happen. But the people that matter, your customers, your clients, your potential customers and clients, they don't care about that. They care what's coming out of your mouth. They care about the expertise that you bring. They care about how your brain processes that information and translates it in a way that actually helps them. So don't be afraid to put that content out there. Don't be afraid to use your photos. It can be really intimidating to get on camera. It can be really nerve-wracking to get on a podcast or an Instagram Live, and we overanalyze ourselves, right? The way we talk, the way we sound, the way we look. Nobody else is looking at it the way you do. And I always say this to everybody all the time. I'm always like, when you look at my Instagram feed, there's a whole lot of this face. Trust me, I am not that egocentric. I really don't want to put my face up there that much. I really do not. But I have built a brand where people recognize Jenn HERMAN. That is the personal brand, right? That's what people recognize. They recognize my face. Most of you have found me from conferences, podcasts, interviews, webinars, where you have seen my face. So when my face pops up in your feed, you go, oh, that's Jenn. She's probably got an Instagram tip. There's probably something in there I want to know. That doesn't mean that if I create a graphic that just has the title of, here's the topic of the Instagram tip, doesn't mean that you're not interested in that as well. But subliminally, when you see my face, you immediately know it's me and there's a tip involved. And you're more likely to go, oh, that's something I'm going to be interested in versus just a graphic that you don't know who submitted that graphic. Now, if it's in my branding, again, it starts to build up relatability and trust and recognition. But my face tends to drive better results because people put a correlation to me and that Instagram tip. So I put up my face on a lot of content because it brings recognition, it brings engagement, it brings conversions. I would rather only use my face once in a while, but it works for my audience for me to put my face out there more often. So I want to remind you and challenge you to don't be afraid of using your visuals of you. Don't be afraid of using that photo that you don't love. Or let's say you did a little mini photo shoot and you really only like one of those photos, but you have 12 to work with. Use the other 11. No one is being as hypercritical as you are. No one is looking at that content and picking it apart. You know, your arms look this way, or your hair's funky, or you said, the ums or the pauses or the whatever it is too many times. None of that is what other people are focusing on. It's what we focus on as ourselves. So don't be afraid to use that content and put yourself out there in a way that maybe you did not do it before, but that will help get your message out there, that will help you with your content overall. Because a lot of times, we are stuck with, I only have these 3 photos I like. And then we use the same 3 photos over and over again, but they don't accurately represent who we are. And, my weight has fluctuated. My age has obviously increased. I started doing this 11 years ago. I looked a lot different 11 years ago than I do now. So it changes, but that's okay. It's okay to just be like, that was 3 years ago. This is today. And if in 2 years you've lost weight or you've changed your haircut or your color or whatever it is, that's okay too, because that's who you are then. Your customers want to work with who you are and they want to see your face. They want to hear your voice. So don't be afraid to put any of that out there. Mike Alton said, in fabulous consistency for years. Yes, I've had my face up there for a very long time. And I always say, I'm like, if you all would start liking like rainbows and flowers and things, I could put up a lot more content. But whenever I put that up, it doesn't get the engagement. And Marie is here saying this is so spot on with how she feels. Marie, I am not calling you out. I promise I am not calling you out. But yes, I know that this does translate into how you feel about seeing yourself on camera. And this is something that, again, it takes practice. We get better, whether it's putting up photos or videos of ourselves, we get better over time, right? Like I didn't wake up one day and get on camera and be like, oh, look at this, I'm a natural. I still make mistakes. I still don't love everything I do on camera. I still second guess myself. But it takes practice. I have been doing this for years and years and years. If you're just starting out, you're going to be way more critical. You're going to be way more aware of those mistakes or those flubs. But I promise you, like I said, I make up words. My kid walks in on camera. It happens. People relate to it. It does not ruin the excellence that is coming out of you. It does not change what you have to offer. It actually makes all of that more real and that much more relatable. So with that, I am going to let my child come back downstairs since I shoot her out of here 5 minutes ago. Kayla said, real life isn't perfect. Exactly. All those DSLR perfectly edited photos are not real. They are a fraction of a moment. Take all the behind the scenes photos. Take the ones where you're like, my photographer will literally, I get to a point where I have to face you don't smile. Like it doesn't look real anymore because I've been smiling for so long, and she'll be like, shake it off. Like I literally make all the funny faces, and she'll snap photos of some of those, and it's hilarious when I get them back because I'm making like the weird faces. But that's how you break up the monotony of it. And sometimes we find reasons to mix in those horrible edited, like the throwaway photos are like, actually that totally relates to the mood that I was in for this post, and I'm going to use that one. So it's okay to use those ones that aren't the perfectly polished photos. It's what makes you more real. To all of you who hung out with me live today, hello, welcome, thank you. It was great to spend sometime this Sunday morning while I finished my tea with all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. For those of you who caught the replay, thank you so much for coming back to watch the replay. If you have any questions or anything, by all means, feel free to leave a comment. I'm happy to come back and answer those. Excuse me. And I wish all of you a wonderful, productive week ahead. We will see you again next week, next Sunday, for the next episode of Tea Tactics and Tenacity, where we break down one Instagram tactic and one random life lesson that seems relatable at the time. So thank you all for hanging out with me today. I will see you all next week. Have a wonderful rest of your day.